Okay, how's it going today, everybody? My name is Joel Bodette, and today I'm doing a presentation on Chapter 11, Public Relations, about promoting ideas. My topic is basically controlling the message within the information area. We could go ahead and start out today with talking about public relations and how this service will help shape and control the public opinion and the perception of companies, people, places, whatnot. I'll start off with stating that most all of my research that I had done was straight out of the textbook, so I should probably give reference to the textbook Media Impact by Shirley Ibigya. I can't pronounce her last name, but okay, let's get started. Public relations helps shape and control the public opinion and perception. In 1914, Henry Ford announced that if he sold 300,000 Model Ts or more by the end of that year, then each customer that did purchase one of these Model Ts would receive some sort of rebate. And actually, his company did achieve this prospect, and each consumer of the car actually ended up getting a $50 rebate as well. Now you can understand how public relations plays into this real well, because by him stating his goal and then also manning up and holding his own on his promotional ideas, he actually, in a sense, developed good relations with the public, which gave an enhanced image of his company. Most people would say, oh, I'm going to go buy a Model T just so I can get some sort of rebate and help him get to that 300,000 Model T quota mark. There are three ways to motivate the public when you're talking about public relations. The first one is power, which isn't designated only by ruling by law, but it's also by peer pressure. If one person jumps off of a bridge, chances are the next person that's friends with them is going to jump off of a bridge. The second way to motivate the public is patronage. This is basically talking about wooing over the individuals through giving them gifts or, little incentives and such to achieve a certain desired perspective on behalf of the company. The third way to motivate the public as well is persuasion. You could use an argument or reasoning to induce someone to do something. You're basically stirring up certain things to get an achieved effect by it, or a desired effect by it. Now, the term public relations is used to describe creating understanding for or even goodwill toward a company, a person, or a product. So it doesn't necessarily only pertain to, that company. It could pertain to a person or some type of merchandise that the company is pushing. For instance, a lot of the soda companies or pop companies nowadays will most likely have NBA players or football players or some type of sports athletic that's famous at the time to drink their drink or eat their food, with Michael Phelps with Subway, swimming through concrete after he ate a 6-inch sub. This is a type of promotional idea, but in promotional ideas there's also public relations. Most every company in the world uses this technique, especially companies offering news medias, press releases, to enhance the company's image in the eyes of the public. Now, the way I see it is this is one definitive way of controlling the message within this information age, because that company has had a chance to sit down with other individuals, colleagues, or representatives within the company to develop a game plan on how they're going to approach a certain situation. And most of the time, if they're bigger companies, they're going to be in the eyes of the public more and more than smaller companies. So they actually have press releases. It kind of makes me think of debriefing within the military. And I actually have an example of a press release that was given to WJG, the Norfolk Daily News, and 94 Rock, and Hawk TV, on behalf of a person named Shane Widener. The subject is City Administrative and Engineering Offices Move. As you can see here, you could zoom in and read this if you want to. I'm not actually going to take the time to describe what it is. We'll move on to some pioneers within the public relations domain. The book actually first talked about Augustus Caesar and how he commissioned statues throughout Greece to be erected, which showed basically heroic depictions or powerful images of him, which in turn made the public kind of look at him as more of a warrior type leader that can bring them into any new era without doubts or hesitations. You could also consider our nation's presidents throughout the history having their mugshots on currency, or even paintings that have been painted throughout the years. For instance, George Washington cutting down the cherry tree. A lot of the times with Roosevelt throughout the earlier 19th century, there was a lot of images of him landing on front pages of newspapers with him doing, socially acceptable things that would allow the public or the masses to view him in the same manner. We'll talk about Ida Tarbell and Lincoln Stevens. Before the 1930s, according to the book Media Impact, basically a lot of these companies would work alongside of journalists without any hesitation or whatnot, not feeling the need to possibly hide certain indiscretions. Well, when the Industrial Revolution came around, Ida Tarbell and Lincoln Steffens actually started taking stabs at a lot of these companies for exploiting a lot of their employees and making, massive, huge profits off of, major sales and low wages. So when your profit return is, 1,000%, chances are people are going to look at you a little weird and see what you're paying your employees, because the employees should obviously have a slight cut as well, or higher wages, more benefits, maybe better working conditions. And these two individuals, Ida Tarbell and Lincoln Steffens, actually, took heavy stabs at these individuals that controlled the big industrial revolution companies, such as Standard Oil, owned by John D. Rockefeller. Ivy Lee and George F. Parker in 1900 developed the first public relations firm. They took a lot of flack for a lot of people thinking that they were a little too private or secretive on a lot of their representations, or I don't know how else to word that. They basically kind of thought they were crooks that were in the pockets of a lot of these big businesses. They declared transparency, and they were thought to be secret and a private bureau on behalf of the business, which in a sense they were. They were hired on by these companies to represent them, but a lot of people thought that they were representing them in falsified manners. In World War I, the government started to actually put a helping hand within public relations campaigning. They started hiring on a lot of PR folks, such as editors and writers, and several firms to represent the government as a whole to gain more loyalty by the nation in the involvement in the war, as well as many other things. Ivy Lee actually, when him and George F. Parker started, the reason that they closed their firm was because, not hands down the only reason, but one of the reasons was because, John D. Rockefeller from Standard Oil decided to hand Ivy Lee a lucrative offer to make him come and represent Standard Oil primarily. So the firm closed down so he could do that. Ivy Lee and Edward Bernays are often called the fathers of public relations. There's a lot of information you can find on Edward Bernays. I'm not going to go too heavy into it, but I will state that he wrote the first book based on public relations. It was called Crystallizing the Public Opinion, which I think the title speaks for itself. He was also, he was also recognized as the first teacher or instructor to teach on this curriculum as well. Ivy Lee also represented, how I said, Standard Oil, but he also represented the government later on as well. So if you ask me, there's something kind of corrupt involved in there. How, Standard Oil is the biggest oil business nowadays, owned by the Rockefeller Company, Rockefeller family. It's pretty much a dynasty. But how, in the beginning, they hired on a PR firm, and that same guy that was running that firm also later represented the government as well. Let's move on to Doris E. Fleischman. She was the wife, again, one of the pioneers in public